Up, friends and family, community members, to anybody else who stumbled up on this, welcome to the Waypoint Podcast. Have you ever felt the Bible was too confusing, that it seemed out of date or out of place? Wondering if anything you could read could connect to who you want to be? This podcast takes a brief look at some polled questions on our church's social media page and brings scripture to life with the perspectives of real people. That's right. The Bible is a living word, which means different people and different things reach out to different experiences. So settle in and let's grow a little bit together. Today's episode, we are kicking things off by looking at the phrase salt and light. What does it mean? Are there icks in the Old Testament? And does the Bible have anything to say about the influence of great power couples like Taylor and Travis? Today, we have an amazing special guest. His name is Brandon Spencer, lives in Conway, Arkansas, has been a part of our South Haven community in South Point for a little over 5-7 years in that area, almost a decade.
It's been a decade. Yep.
It's been a decade. Recently relocated to the Conway, Arkansas area, his wife, Candace, and their amazing son. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm really excited to kick this off. I am genuinely excited because this is something that I think will be a lot of fun. I think especially just the way and the concept, it's going to be different guests every week. We're going to just kind of jump in and look at some stuff that I think you and I have had this conversation before. The Bible is so much fun to read and to really dive in. And I think because of the way it was written and the age of it, and I think the not nostalgia, but the smear of it, right? It just rubs people wrong.
Right.
I think we just get a little bit like it's just boring. And I think we can really dive into it and have some fun when we put things into practical terms. So you guys just moved. How's everything going over in Conway? How are things going?
It's going good, man. It's a really beautiful area. We love it here. Everything's going smooth, and everybody's liking it.
Yeah, that is awesome. I'm so happy you guys are there and ready, and I'm ready to jump in on this. So without further ado, today we're going to take the first few moments of this segment as we look into a poll response. So this podcast is built off of you, the viewer, the listener. We put out a poll that asks a certain question. Maybe it's a phrase from the Bible, maybe it's an experience or something, maybe it's just a single verse. We take the most polled answer and we use that to kind of construct this podcast episode. Today, we look at the phrase salt and light. Salt and light is predominantly found in the New Testament. It's a phrase used by Jesus Christ, right? The third or second part of the triune God. And when we look at it, it is a interesting phrase because the poll was in the year 2024, what of the three polled answers do you feel the most confusing? And the number one answer was salt and light. Salt and light, Jesus is talking about how Christians have to go out into the world and make changes that stick. And to be salt and light in 2024, Brandon, I'll kick it to you. What does that mean to you personally, just when you think about this phrase?
Well, I'll tell you, salt and light, like you said, it's how we come across to other people. But to me, I read it as something that it's an outward display of an inward condition. So we have to purposely have the light in us. We have to purposely be salt ourselves. And that affects and influences how we come across to other people, how we're light to other people, the flavor, the taste that we leave in other people's mouth, and the desire for more of God and everything like that. To me, the thing that caught me was being flavor. Jesus talks about, what is salt if it loses its flavor? And that's what always kind of confused me. And I was like, how does salt lose its flavor? And if you look at it, it's a very strong compound scientifically, and it can't lose its flavor, basically, unless you take it apart molecularly. And so I was like, how in the world would salt lose its flavor? Well, when you get to looking at it, I think the way that salt would lose its flavor is if it got mixed in with something like dirt or sand or something like that, then it's covered up. So to me, for me to lose my salt to lose its flavor means that stress in my life or bitterness in my heart towards other people or things that other people have done to me, or just, anything that can happen to you can mix in and cause that salt to be bitter and nasty taste. And so what do you do with that? You just throw it out, you know?
Yeah. Well, and you bring this up like you can't broke it down at a molecular level. Like if you take, I think the problem with the Bible is we get so caught up in we don't read it in context,
Yeah.
and it's like I don't understand why and it's people. It's not just Christians. It's people. We will read the Harry Potter books in order, and we get real out of shape if we read them out of order. Like if you pick up the Goblet of Fire, right, and you just read that for the first time, you have no idea what's going on. You can't understand anything. But if you start with the Sorcerer's Stone, and I know I'm nerding out for a moment, but I think it's the same thing, and you know this, it's the same thing in the Bible. You have to go back to why was salt such an important thing in that culture? Without it, they couldn't preserve anything. Food could not be preserved. They did not have the way to keep things, as fresh as they could. So that was the only way. And you're right. If you get dirt in the salt, if you get contaminants, if you get things into it, well, then you lose the integrity of the meat. You lose the integrity of the food. It's the same thing in our spirit. When we are so torn up and broken up from letting other things impact us. And, it's interesting that this would be the thing that would be the biggest hang up for the early church. Jesus would go on to lead this message and this new change, this new religion. He sets the standard for it because he is the standard, right? And then he leaves it to the disciples and Paul to go out. But all of the letters in the New Testament, they're all about people having more bitterness. They're constantly compromising the salt that they have to have, the integrity to do something else. And so I feel like we get really stressed out about it because we hold ourselves to a perfection standard instead of just a reality of, hey, you're not going to be 100% all the time, but you got to make better choices, right? Like we have to understand that it still has to try to be as pure as we can. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's just the way I think about it, but it is that we get bent out of shape because it's not in the order that we like, but it's no different than like reading a textbook or reading books in a novel. Like, got to read it in order.
Right. You got to put it in its proper context. Something I thought that was interesting is, you talk about salt versus light, and it talks about taking light and put it under a basket or something like that. To me, that's, like a fear thing. It's like, oh, I don't want anybody to see this light. I'm covering it up or whatever. And that's really an intentional act, but for salt to be mixed in with this bitterness or whatever's going on in your life is almost unintentional. So it's something that you really have to pay attention to. You have to guard against things like that and try to make sure that those things don't mix in to cause the salt to lose its flavor.
Well, it's interesting. So you bring that concept because when Jesus talks about this, and for anybody out there, the reference is Matthew 5, 13 through 16. It's 3 verses, and there is such a dynamic difference between salt and light, but it's a unification because the first part is the purity of salt. And, don't take this and hear purity as, oh, you have to be pure. No, that's not a judgment. This is like when you step into wanting to be a better person, and you can even remove, I think, part of Christianity from this. If you set yourself up to say, I want to make an impact on the world, I want to be a life bringer, I want people to be able to come to me when they feel like things are stressful, then you have a Christian mindset. Like we can say it's good vibes or positive things, but it is a Christian mindset because Jesus is the first person that talks about this. But then the light part is you have to be willing to shine the light into people's worlds, but you have to be able to do it in a way that's not blinding, right? We get I think we're this way in culture. We moved into our new house and we did not want to use overhead lighting anymore. We wanted to use all dimmable lighting. And I know you're smiling because I know you're nobody likes that moment when you wake up in the morning, you're not awake and you turn the light on. And it is this blinding, right? We feel like but it's the same thing. Like our light has to shine into dark places. It has to be different. It has to be welcoming. And it has to be something that's different from the norm. We're filming this the day after Super Tuesday, and we're not going to get political on this. That's not what this is about. But if you took the moment Super Tuesday ended and you just went to Twitter, X, whatever they're calling it now, Facebook, Instagram, and you just dived into all the stuff that was being posted, how is that light doing anything but blinding people away? That doesn't bring anybody together. And it's the same thing that Jesus is echoing and stating in these scriptures is you have to be willing to let your light be inviting to people, but you can't at the same time be so bright and so pious and so overwhelming that you just alienate people. It has to be a welcoming light. It has to be a warm and welcoming light. And yes, that means you're going to have hard decisions about stuff that you do and things that you enjoy, but you are creating a life-bringing light to the community you're around.
Right. And I think you hit on something there. There's a right amount of light for the right person at the right time. The same person at one point in their life may need a certain amount of light, but at another point in their life may need another amount of light.
Exactly.
And the same thing with salt. If you get too much salt on something, you don't want to eat it either. You know, we talk about mixing it with dirt or sand or anything like that. You wouldn't want to eat it, but you don't want to eat anything that's over salted either. And that's a personal taste, and it hits people differently. They want a different amount of salt, so you have to have just the right amount of each thing to come across the way it's supposed to. And you know, that's where the Holy Spirit leads you and guides you and says, okay, this is what you need to do in this moment, instead of being overpowering.
Exactly. And it really is. It's a scale. And I think the same thing that Jesus was saying here is still true in 2024. We cannot be so overwhelming that we blind people, but we also can't be so soft that people roll over us. Cause there is there is a line, man. And whether you like it or not, there is a line to this that you have to stand on, and it's tough, and it's a struggle, but it's the reality of what it takes to be a Christian. To buy into this identity of Christ, but it's the best thing you'll ever do, because you become so relaxed in who you are that you don't allow yourself. And, you know, we're not going off the game plan of how to change people's lives and how to help people by what we think is the standard. We give God the chance to say, okay, how do we step into this? How do we make this better? And we are just honest about those things. Yeah, I think this isn't I think this is a fantastic 3 verses of scripture. I think it's overlooked. I think it's still absolutely practical and can be applied right now to your life in 2024. Brandon, do you have anything on this verse you want to kind of some final thoughts on it before we move on into the next part of the segment?
I think that's it. The only other thing I can think of is, you know, this Jesus represents salt too in Mark, and when he says that we have to be salt to ourselves, between each other, and live at peace as well. So not only is it to other people, but it's between ourselves. We have to be salt to each other as well.
Yeah, we have to be willing. That's an awesome ending point. We have to find a way, because even within our own denominations, within our own belief systems, we can all agree that Jesus is the way, right? Like if you're a Christian, you kind of buy into that idea, right? You're still trying to figure it out. It's the first way, it's like through Jesus. But then it's all the other stuff where we get all real jumbled up and messed up. So this has been fantastic. I know we got a lot of cool stuff coming up. Hey, I just want to take a quick pause in the action and let you know about some of the great events that we have coming up. We are always doing something, whether it's serving our city, baptism, different events going on. So make sure that if you want to connect with everything South Point, follow us on every social media page, but make sure you go over to our website and check out the events. All right, so now we're going into a new part of the segment that is called Hot Take, where we look at some things that are trending and we kind of take our own perspective through the lens of scripture. And today we are looking at Icks in the Old Testament. So I got to kick this off first, Brandon. Do you know what an ick is? Did you know what an ick was, or did you have to Google it?
I have to be honest, I had to Google it.
Okay, I'm fair. I did not know what it was either. I had to Google it at the beginning, and I think I figured it out. So an ick is that trait that somebody puts off or does that just it shuts you down, right? And so the idea that we're taking with this is the Old Testament. For anybody out there, the Old Testament is this amazing narrative. It really is a narrative. It's a story. It's a genealogy. It is the foundation of the Jewish faith. But it's so much more. It is this running story of human beings trying to walk through life. And there are some icks in relationships and things that happen that are, if there was dating apps in the Old Testament, if that existed, or if there was speed dating there are some things that I just think would have had to been Icks. And I got a few that I want to go through. And Brandon, I know you got some, and I just want to dive into some of these. So I'm gonna kick this one off first. I think David and Bathsheba, like I'm all for being clean. Okay. I'm a twice a shower day guy, depending on how bad the day has been and what I got to do. There's nothing about the ancient world that screams, I want to take an outdoor shower. There is nothing at all. Like the fact that, like, I give it to David. David messed up. Like, we're not going to sit here and say David didn't mess up. He made some mistakes. But Bathsheba, like, do you know how quick a sandstorm can pick up in ancient Israel? Like, you're not getting clean. Like, you're not getting clean on a rooftop and then going down. Like the heat. I did a mission trip in Guatemala years ago, and the amount, like, I sweat in the shower while being, like, I bathed myself, and by the time I was dry, I was already sweating. So I cannot imagine what that's just an ick for me, man. I can't do outdoor showers. I can't do outdoor rooftop showers, man. That would be, if I was King David, I'd be like, yeah, I can't do that, man. I can't do that. I don't know. That's just me. That's on me on that one. What about you? What are some of the things you see?
I'll tell you one thing that I see is a real big one is I can't imagine what it was like when it was given Moses was given the law, or whenever it came out about clean and unclean animals, and somebody was told for the first time, you can't eat pork. It's like, I could just imagine a guy eating, a pork chop and putting it in his mouth or something like that, or a bacon cheeseburger or something, and somebody goes, oh, you can't do that anymore. The law says you can't eat that pork, and they're like, what are you talking about? I can't eat this. It's like, do you swallow the bite? Do you spit it out?
That's that moment where you're paused, like you're looking at it and you're like, well, I've already cooked it. I don't know if I should. I've already cooked this. Dude, that is, man, thank God for Jesus, because if we still had the Old Testament laws, dude, no shellfish, no pork, I don't know what I do. Like, I love pigs. I love bacon way too much to give that up. I could not. Okay, so the Jacob, Leah, Rachel scandal in Genesis. Can we just talk for a minute about how in the world, first off, that's cold to make your nephew work for you for 7 years, right? Like, work for a minute. I think it was 7 years. The Bible doesn't use the number 7. So we're going to use that. And then you get the wrong woman. How bad looking was she? Or was it the nighttime routine? Because I'm married, you're married. We love our wives, and don't take this next part as something mean, but it's like, if I've worked and toiled for years to be with the woman I love, and then that's not the woman, is it really, like, would you say just run it back again and then you'll get this one? There had to be something about her that was so, like, I'm out, that I just couldn't. I'd rather work a double time to get her. And I don't know, maybe that's me just being, I don't know. I feel like I'd look and be like, I mean, I've already worked this long. I got a wife. I feel like I'm okay. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like there had to have been something. Like, it had to have been, I think of, like, Austin Powers, The Mole. Like, it had to be something that it was just outstandingly, like, I got to get out. I can't do this. I can't make this happen.
Well, my thing was like when he tricked him and he accidentally married the wrong one. It's like, okay, how thick was that veil? How dark was it? How did you spend the whole night with her and be like, oh wait, this is the wrong person?
Exactly. Like, that is the biggest level of, like, dude, I've been married. Like, you're married, I'm married. Like, there's not there. You knew, man. Yeah. Like, unless they were twins, and even if they were twins, you knew something. Like, you knew that there was something about it.
Something's different here.
Something's different, man. But this is. I definitely recommend anybody, if you have, drop in the comments, let us know what is an ick in the Old Testament. If you love reading the story, because again, there are hundreds of stories in the Old Testament that just make you go, no, like, no. It's the old joke. If God was to speak to you directly and tell you to do something that is said in the Old Testament, would you really have the courage to say, oh yes, absolutely, no question at all? Or would you stop for just a minute and be like, can we say that one more time? Can we run that back? So let us know in the comments. We want to know exactly what you guys think about that. And I think we got time for one more hot take, and then we're gonna kind of land this thing. So we have a storyline that is growing in our culture. It was probably, it hit its climax at the Super Bowl, and that is Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, who have become the media darlings of. I've never seen this in my lifetime. I have never seen a superstar kind of correlation at this magnitude, where you have one of the top talents of one sport and probably one of the greatest artists of all time, just lyrically, commercially, right? And they fall in love, and it's all beautiful, and it's highlighted around the world, and it climaxes at the Super Bowl. You know, I feel like there are some relationships that just, I know I want everybody wants to win, and they should, right? This is like this. People are thinking like this changed the world, right? That this is a lifetime relationship that we've all been needing. Like, we've needed a Taylor and Travis story, but we've had stories like this before, right? Like, we've had stories that have perplexed society, and I just tell you, the breakup album that comes out is going to be fantastic. I don't know. There's something about it. I just feel like it's the taking the world by storm, and I don't know. I don't know if it's that. Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this?
So on that particular story, or on the
just like
couples?
Just couples in the Bible that have, and in relating, because we've hyper focused this couple and what they're doing, and there's couples in the Bible that I think have the same storyline, and we just haven't given them credit for they weren't the Travis and Taylor are not the OGs of this, man.
No.
Lot and his wife are in there. Samson and Delilah. There are a lot of them that are just like, oh, and and I don't mean this to be in a negative way, but I do mean it to be in somewhat of a negative way. Maybe that's because I'm a Ravens fan and we shouldn't have lost that game, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like there's stuff going on about that that's just. Yeah.
Samson Delilah is a good one. I was thinking about that one, and Samson was this. He was the champion. He was the muscular athlete, if you will. He was the one that was. All eyes were on him as far as like saving Israel and being a judge of Israel and all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking, Delilah had to be something. If he was going after her, because he'd already had a wife before. Yes. And for the Philistine commanders to like go straight to her, she had to be somebody before us, right? So it was she had to be somebody that was in the spotlight, kind of like Taylor Swift, I would say. And putting them two together, everybody probably was rooting for them because it was merging two worlds, two cultures, and that kind of stuff. And then you see how sour that turned out, almost like every other celebrity couple we know.
Well, and that's the thing. So like, if this. Okay, so we know it's Samson and Delilah 2.0 if like Travis comes back after training camp and he's got like a shaved head, or he's got like full sleeve tattoos, or he's gained like 40 pounds. Yeah. We know like,
and can't play.
She goes back and it's like, I can't play anymore. They cut my hair, or they shaved my beard.
Yeah.
Like, you call, the Waypoint podcast right here called it first. If the start of the 2025 NFL season, then it's all scripted, and the NFL stole everything from the Bible. That's what it is. Yep. It means Patrick Mahomes is the savior. Tom Brady was originally David. It's all written in there. So again, in the comments, if you think if you're with us in this scripting, I think it would be amazing. It's probably not true. I can dream. But if the NFL stole the script from the Bible, it was like, we need a love to change and bring people together, to unify homes. What's that Samson and Delilah story again? Like, they just read the beginning. They didn't read how it ended. And now they've written it and they're like, oh, Travis, we're sorry, but we need you to gain 40 pounds in the offseason and shave your beard and forget how to play football. Yeah. All right. Well, guys, we're going to close this thing out. We like to close out this with something called the positive pin. So, Brandon, thank you for being with us. The positive pin is in life, we have a lot of negative things. We have a lot of stuff that's just kind of falling down on us. Again, talked about it. We're recording this the day after Super Tuesday. a lot of highs, a lot of lows. Doesn't matter where you stand or what you believe in. Everybody has something to complain about. And so we like to close on a positive pin. This is something that was a Bible verse that popped up, something that happened in the world. Just 60 seconds to remind us that the world is not a dumpster fire. There is positivity out there. You just have to find it and change and kind of shift your perspective onto that. So Brandon, what do you got?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And my positive thing that I have to say is I'm enjoying this warm weather. I'll tell you what, I'm tired of the cold. I'm ready for spring. I'm ready for it to be here. I'm ready for shorts. I'm ready for, grilling outdoors and going places. And I'm just ready for it. Easter's coming up. It's going to be good.
I'm with you on that. I'm not happy about the warm weather personally. I like it cold, but I'm happy it's positive. I will take it and go with it. I love it. A positivity that I saw, dude, the amount of people that are buying into adoption. So there's this big influencer, CEO of Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy, who he ended up, rescuing a battered dog from a battered pit bull from a really bad situation. And just the amount of people that have given to this charity, the amount of people that are still adopting dogs, man, dude, dogs are awesome. And just, having pets are awesome. And the ability to just not give up on that I love it. I love the amount of people that are just buying in on, getting a dog that give them a second chance. I just think that's awesome. I think it's great.
It
The amount of just financial and social gain that's happened with, this dog, Miss Peaches, his dog is fantastic. I just think it's awesome. But dude, thank you for being with us. I'm so excited. Thank you again. Everybody, that was Brandon Spencer with us here on the Waypoint Podcast. Thank you guys for being here. Make sure to keep up with us wherever you are. Follow us right here on YouTube. Check out the audio version wherever you find your podcast. This has been the Waypoint Podcast, reminding you dream big, bring your best, and above all, enjoy the journey. See you guys next time.